So first of all, we're going to talk about the teddy itself. I just take any old teddy. All these are rigged up in exactly the same way. Cut a hole in the back, so be really brutal. Just make sure you've got a nice big space. Take some of the stuffing out. Then I take balsa wood. Balsa wood is really light, so that's important because we don't want it to be heavy on the rig. Really light and really easy to carve. So just cut a piece out. You can get a small piece. Cut a piece out and then just start wrapping some nice aluminium armature wire around it. I can put a link on where to get all these bits and bobs in the video comments. But essentially, wrap a load of wire around your piece of wood. Keep wrapping it, make sure it's nice on there, nice and solid, but then have lots of bits sticking out. And then what you're going to do is just stick it in the teddy bear and make sure that those bits that are sticking out go everywhere. Stick it into the head, push, push, push. Make sure it winds round in circles. You can manipulate it from the outside as well. And just make sure the whole teddy bear is wired. So anything that's wired, you're going to be able to control. So as you can see here, I put some wire in the ear, and I'll keep stuffing that in to make sure there's a whole load of wire in there and it won't fall out. And then I can just control the ear and move it backwards and forwards. This bit I'll take out, but it's just a demo. So I've gone in through the top of the ear here, just with a really simple tool. Hello, camera 2. With a really simple tool to make a hole and then stick the wire in. I then curled it around inside the ear, then whatever I can't force in, I'll just chop off and it gives me what I need. It's really simple. The only other thing to mention is that in order to rig it up onto a rig, one of the things that animators use and puppet makers use is a piece of 5mm K&S tubing. It's square tubing and they all fit, they come in different sizes and they all fit inside each other. So this fits a standard rig. So this will fit onto any of these rigs that you can see here. And what we do is we make sure that's glued into the balsa wood really, really, really well. You don't want it to move or jiggle around. So now what you've got is a rigged up teddy bear. So let's get rid of that. I'll show you an example. This guy's rigged up. It's just a sloth, cost about $20, and as you can see on here, he's got balsa wood inside, just some loose wire wrapped around. I didn't take long over it. I did make sure the K&S tubing is glued in very, very well, and now I can put him on anything and have pretty much full control over his body movements just with that nice piece of wire. It's not very stiff wire to get whatever I need for the run cycle. Okay, so that's that example. Another example is just to kind of finish off that part of the process is I do exactly the same thing with plasticine. So for any plasticine figures that are quite heavy, I'll build out the bulk of the body first with balsa wood and then do exactly the same process without the wire, but with the K&S tubing in it, so I can then put it on the rig like you just saw. The only difference being that if you use plasticine, I use plumber's tape or a plastic tape to wrap around the balsa wood first so that the plasticine oil doesn't seep into the wood and then it eventually cracks like this guy has. That's one other example. So that's prepping the character. So now you've got a character ready to animate. Let's move on to section 2. There's sections. So the next part is about preparing rigs. So if you can afford them, then I'll put a link into where mine come from. But it's great to have the actual rig. And there are different types. So you can have an arm, or you can have a winder. The two essentially just hold up the item. The arm you have to manually move, and the winder is way more accurate in terms of just winding up and down and forwards and backwards. You can also get a bottom winder as well, so you've got full movement in every direction. What I've done here is attached a winder upside down onto a piece of wood, screwed that piece of wood into what is a wardrobe hanging door system, and then I'm able to scroll that back and forwards over the set and then make finer adjustments using the winder. So it's a really nice way to get full control over the movement of, hello cameras, over the movement of the teddy bear in terms of where I want to position him, especially on this set which I've set up to move around. We're going to animate the teddy bear and we're going to make him run, and all we need to do is take 10 shots, 5 on each leg for the run sequence. We could probably do less, we could probably do more, but this is what I've chosen. So I'll show you the 5 positions on one side, we'll repeat on the other side, then I'll chuck it into in drag and frame. I'll then loop it to check it, and then I'll put it into After Effects, get rid of the rig, and we can loop the rig keyframes as well, so it makes the whole life a lot easier just to have one running sequence. and then we'll go from there. But anyway, so we can start with several different positions. If you start with a position where the movement is quite small on either side of the frames, in those smoother sections it'll be very hard to refine and get a perfect loop where there isn't a glitch as it repeats that captures your, distracts you from the performance. So always do a loop or start your animating in a position that's on a big movement. So this position is him hitting the ground, and I've got him hitting the ground from quite a high position, so mid position with his legs quite far out. So this is kind of like boom, and then he's going to bounce back up again. I do the final edit and I want to change the background and everything, or I want to put stuff on the surface around here and edit that in. One of the things I'll do is think really carefully about lighting. So all this rigging, everything will go. So there's a rig interfering with that light there, which is going to make this light different when the rig goes. So it's not that's why it's not perfect. Otherwise it's good enough. Let's do it. Right, okay, so he's just hit the ground. His head is at the highest point. So as he's going down, his head's going to lift up. I've done the same with the ears because it's kind of comedy. It's just exaggerated movement. They're secondary movements, so the head and the ears. His arms are about to cross body and his foot has just hit the ground here. It's like he's really hit the ground hard. And I think that feels good. It's going to get his right. So the other thing I'm going to aim for in this first position, because this is your opportunity to get it all right, is I'm just going to reset this drawing line on Dragon Frame, and that is just a really simple little part of the process where I will track his body position. Okay, so I think we can take the first shot. And get out the scene. Now we're going to lift him into the air. So here we go. Up he goes. We don't want him to go too far into the air on this shot. That's quite nice. We're going to swap the leg positions over. We're going to swap the arm positions over. This is the main swing. We're going to start pushing the head down and the ears forward. I've got 3 movements upward for the head to flop forward, so I'll do a medium-sized one on this shot, and then I'm just going to check aesthetically how it looks. So something weird going on with that leg. Let's just keep that nice and straight. It's a teddy bear. He can't be blamed. It's not a professional armature. That feels good to me. And of course, I'm going to just move my grass. So it's really simple. 6 pieces of grass. I planned out the speed of this to be pretty good. It's 15 centimeters wide for each section. And then just move forwards. I'll keep an eye on that as we go. That's nice. Right, let's take that shot. Next position. Right, he's going to come up to about there. Nice position. And now he's going to do a big swing of the arms. Right up. His head's going to dip forwards. His ears in theory are going to be flopping forwards under the upwards pressure. And his back leg's going to swing out and his front leg's going to swing up. Now let's see how, I know that physically feels like enough. Let's see how it looks on camera. Right, he's still aligned on my line. And that feels quite nice. It's all about exaggerating. So what I'm going to do is just exaggerate it, just to try to see how far I can take it and then see how that looks on camera. I'm just going to push all that up a bit. I I feel like that might just be a bit too much. I'm just going to reverse that very slightly. I want to see this leg still, not part of the body, but I want to see it sticking out still. That feels nice. You can see his head goes forward slightly and then a bit more. Yeah, that's all good. I'll take that shot. And then just draw on the screen where I put him, and I can now use, if I do decide to keep animating, I can use those positions I've drawn on the screen as a reference, a really quick reference to kind of just match everything back, because we're going for a loop here, which means you need perfection. Already feels nice, yeah, lovely. Right, so all we now need to do is soften all the movements. So he's just gone into the sky, gravity's putting him back down, so we're going to just do that final nod forward, very slight, and really push his ears into his head. There's loads of wire in there, so they should stick nicely. A little tweak up with the arms, a little tweak up with this leg and this one. Let's see how that looks. I feel like he's unnecessarily moving forwards there. What's going on? I don't want him tilting forwards. Oh. There we go. So what I was worried about before is when I was doing that, what I was worried about before is this movement all looks good, everything's softening and it's ready to go back down again. The thing that was bothering me is his head was just nodding very slightly towards that red line. You could argue it's a bit too close there, but I think it's okay. We'll get away with that. But what we won't get away with is there's a little glitch where it's bouncing forward. So there we go, boom. That's that shot done. It's going to come back down to about this position. And on his way back down, his legs are going to start coming back down. As it can't be soft, it needs to show that it's really going to go back in that direction quite quickly. So it's kind of quite a sudden move. His head's going to go up slightly. With about a third, if you like, of the total head movement is going to be covered in this shot, and then the rest will be on the fall down movement. And just now, I feel like he might just be going a bit too far down. Yeah, that was nice. Kind of the downward force. The downward force looks like it's matched with his head and his ears coming back up. Yeah, we like that. It looks good. Nice. It feels like there's weight coming out of him going back down again, so that's nice. Right, we'll take a shot. Right, that's shot number 5. Now, all we're going to do is repeat that on the other side. So the first shot I took was at this position. I've drawn a mark on my screen so I know exactly where to put that. He was on the other leg, and this time he's going to be on this leg, and the legs are coming back round. There we go. He's hitting the ground. This arm's going to go back down by the side. His head's all the way up, and his ears are pointing in the air. I made the mistake of not changing the grass first before putting him on it. There we go. I have to edit out my sniffles. I've got a cold. Just moved the wrong one. Let's do that. There we go. Now I'm going to check his alignment to my line. You can see that he's falling right back, so I now need to fix that. There we go. Too far forward. I'm worried the whole bear has come forward, so I'm just going to move it back a bit. You can see it, or I was seeing it here against that red line that we originally drew. It's a really helpful thing, just have that one little line to keep you on track, especially if you want to work fast. And the only problem now I've got is that this leg here doesn't really look like it's moved. It looks like it's just landed, so I'm going to just have to give that a bit more of a position. There we go. Cool, that's good. Cool, now we fire him back into the air, and I know exactly where I want to take the rig because I've drawn my lines. I'll put those lines in on Dragon Frame so you can see them in the final recording, I think. Now then, so he's just hit the ground. He's coming back up. His arms need to swap over, and we need to indicate that everything's going in the opposite direction. So this leg goes forward, this leg goes back, this arm goes back, this arm goes forward. I don't need to be super precise for this, but it's good to have a feeling for how far you want to move it, because the first move is normally quite a good indicator of how fast the whole action is going to take. So you want it to always feel natural. So I take quite a bit of care. I've done quite a lot of these now, so I've got a good feeling for how much I want to move it. And all I really want to achieve in this shot is the crossover of the legs and the crossover of the arms. Right, I'm just going to check the grass and then we are good to go, I think. Check the head position. Now I'm worried that he is coming forward ever so slightly against this red line. I'm just going to move him back just an absolute fraction, see what happens. Go back and see the first one. See, that first one did as well, but let's just keep it in check. Yeah, that feels good. Am I bending his head forward enough? Yeah, that's good. Okay, we're going to take that shot. Grass looks okay. next position, we're going to send him up into the air. Up he goes. I was worried about when the whole rig moves. And now he's going to go into his full out, arms all the way up, legs all the way in their new position, like he's just done his big leap. And remember, we soften that on the next one. So, and his head dips down quite a bit, and his ears come closer to his head. Right. I bent his head forward more than I did on the other leg, so I'm just going to correct that. Now his body's right up against that red line, and all the way through the shot, it's pretty close. It does go back slightly. This one I'm worried that it goes back too far, but it is also an indication that he's twisting his body, which he is, because I'm moving his arms around. So it could actually feel quite natural. I don't think that's going to glitch. I'm going to move him forwards anyway, just to correct it slightly. That looks good. Just sit here and do this all day like this. Rewatching the same thing, looking for mistakes. I think that looks nice. Right, I've got to move the grass. Should become a landscape gardener for turf companies. So here, doesn't go too far down, remember. Head comes up again, ears flop up, and his arms start to indicate we're going in that direction, as does his legs. That's right. If I don't spend time making the turf look good each time, and it stays in the right position, then it glitches. You don't want something that detracts from the performance. Now, I think he's gone backwards slightly. This didn't happen the first time I did it. Oh, I feel like that's going to work. Now we're at a point where we can take the final shot and I can go and copy and paste and look to see how it loops. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm not worried about the rigging glitching, that's just silly, but it is really distracting. I think the teddy bear performance looks bang on, so we're going to keep that, and that's it. So, now the animation's done, I'm going to chuck it in, or I'm going to copy it maybe 4 times on Dragon Frame, conform the takes, and then I'm going to import it into After Effects, and then we'll pick up from there. Can't think of anything else to mention on this bit. Oh, clean slate. So we'll take the clean slate quickly. The process of editing out the rig is normally pretty simple. You do a clean plate, it's normally 3 shots, you then loop it round and then use that to edit out the rig. Because I've got moving grass, the still grass, if I need to hold some of that, can become a problem. So my clean slate is going to be moving grass in this case, just because I think it's a better way of doing it. So I'm just going to take 6 shots with the grass. You don't need to watch this, but so now I've got a clean slate with 6 frames, 1 for each of the grass segments moving and cycling round, and I'm going to use that to edit out the rigs. Now all the editing of the rigs is going to happen up here, but if I decide to embellish this whole shot and I wanted to have more fun, I could animate something sitting here, for example, or maybe just off the side here. If I wanted to animate something here and he's throwing shadows and doing stuff that interferes with this section, then that clean slate's going to help me edit all that without having to be too specific about the masks, because the moving grass will probably get lost with the art as the eye tracks it. So it's great fun to put stuff that covers the actual moving grass, because it kind of just brings the scene and lifts it a little bit more. And you could even just sit here and animate this guy and have him just like watching the guy running and his head bobbing up and down. Now you'd have to mask him out and put another layer over the top of your final film, but it would look really cool, and it just adds a nice little level. And I like what Patagraph does in his, you always zoom out and something else is happening in the scene, so this just gives you that option to do that. So that's why I took 6 moving grass shots. But if the scene wasn't moving, I'd just take 3. There we go. Okay, let's move on to the next. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is pull in the files. So file, I'm going to pull them in from Dragon Frame, import them into After Effects. This is a basic After Effects window. I haven't really, Here we go. So first of all, we're going to pull in the clean slate. So you can have RAW files or JPEGs. You don't really need RAW files unless you're going to manipulate color in a very detailed way as you import them into After Effects. So you can just use JPEGs. It doesn't really matter which ones you use. RAW in theory gives you a few more options, but unless you're doing TV commercial work, you can stick to JPEGs. That's fine, which is what I'm going to do. So just check those boxes ticked for the sequence and then import. That's going to import those 6 shots. I'm going to interpret my footage and I'm going to set it to 12.5. I've just got in the habit of doing that lately because it's TV work, but you can set yours to 12. Then we'll just pull that in to enable time remapping. And you press Alt and click on the clock and you type loop out. Make sure you use a capital O on the out and open bracket, cycle, close bracket. Boom. Then what you need to do is put a keyframe into each of these down here. So this is the start keyframe and this is the end keyframe. What you need to do is just put one in for each of those, and the last one, it's important that you delete it for technical reasons, copy and paste in the first one at the end there. I was just using Control C for copy and Control V for paste. So now I can just drag this all the way to the end, and I have a clean slate of the moving grass. Perfect. Okay, next I'm going to put in the footage of the stop motion of the 10 frames that we then repeated 4 times. Here it is here. Same process, I'm putting in JPEGs. It always shows me RAW first and then JPEG, and then it goes alternates through the sequence. So JPEG, select the first file, make sure the sequence box is tagged, and then import. Interpret footage and make it 12.5. You'll probably just make it 12, just to keep life simple. And then put it down here. So now what we've got is the teddy and the clean slate sitting on top. So for now, let's just look at the teddy. So what we have is our 10 shots copied and pasted in Dragon Frame 4 times. So there's 4 loops on here. So we can just watch that, see how it looks. There we go. There we go. I'm just going to end that there. There we go. There we go. Looking good. Now we're going to remove the rigging, and we're going to hopefully do this really quickly. So the plan is to, first of all, take out pretty much everything. So let's actually just do it. Here we go. Right. So let's take out. So I'm selecting the layer of the clean slate. Okay, so that is going to be frame 1. Let's just click off of it. I can't see anything. It's going to look, you can't really see the difference between the lines anymore, so that looks great. We're just going to lock that in keyframe 1. So we've now got 9 more to do. So all we need to do now is track where I'm cutting off the rig. You don't really want to move anything else because it might be noticeable in the final edit. I didn't really want to move this arm bit too much, so I'll just try and keep that there. It's going to come up here, so I might just in advance move that over. A new one in there, just over the ear. There you go. I'm going to cut off the corner of his head. Nice. 2. I'll do the next one. Just put that over there. Between the clean slate in that yellow area at the back there. There's nothing really giving away that you've got 2 different layers and one slightly different colour. So what I've done is I have keyframed a mask over the 10 frames. Not all of them, because we're just going to copy paste the keyframes, or we can just do the one section and then loop the video. It's probably the cleaner way of doing it. And then, so now we are going to put the teddy bear back in. So the bits where we cut off his head, where has he gone? There he is. We're going to take the main footage, put it back in over the top, open it up, and this is where we're just going to go in and very delicately put his head back in. So what I've got now is 3 layers. The original layer, which I'll rename as main footage. The second layer, which I'll rename as clean slate. Should have done this at the beginning, would be a lot cleaner. And this is going to be renamed as final correction. Main footage. Okay, right, so now we're going to put a mask back in and just put the important bits back in so it looks normal. So I'm loosely just going to go around this area here, as close to the outline as possible. With really big wide feathers to deal with that lighting difference. What I'm now doing is I can put this layer in as quite a low feathering level, and I don't need to, yeah, there we go. I'm going to put in the keyframes, the feathering of about 10, and just so maybe 5 actually. In fact, I go 4, and then we'll just see how that looks. So you're not going to notice much of this at all. So I can go back in here, and the only area I really need to worry about is this bit here where you can see the actual rig there. I'm just putting back in, there we go, that should do it. And that just allows you to be more accurate. Well, what it actually does is it enables what I said before, which is I had a lighting difference between the clean slate and the main footage. And the only way to get rid of that is a really wide feathering, so it blends the two lights. We can't do that anymore because we've now got, what we're now going to do is, fix it and put this little bad boy in over the top. And it's normally quite quick, it doesn't take long. It might seem like it's a bit of an exhaustive process to do it twice. And for the footage I recently put online, I only did it once because my lighting matched perfectly. But quite often, and more often than not, when you take everything out of your scene that you're photographing for stop motion, the lighting does change. It's just the nature of light. It reflects off all the different things that are sitting on the stage. And therefore, it's not always easy to get a perfect lighting match. Lighting the back wall is the most obvious thing, which I didn't do very well. So I have to go through this slightly longer process, which is good because it just demonstrates to you what that process can look like when you go wrong. You don't want to go back and reshoot stuff. And because this is only 10 frames, I wasn't too worried about doing this slightly slower process. Okay, right, so now we have our final video. Perfect.